This old guy DIY video has to do with replacing the fuel pump in a 2001 Chevy Suburban without cutting the carpet or dropping the tank. So the first step here is to remove the back seat. You have 4 18mm nuts that need to be removed. And to get this one on the back corner, just tip the seat forward. You can reach right down there with the socket on the impact. And the Milwaukee impact wrench with the 18mm does a pretty nice job. So I'll pull the seat out first. So I removed the trim piece here, then just pulled the carpet up, and the padding had a seam right here also. So I've revealed the 4 bolts. There's one, there's one, there's the 4th one. So now I'm going to mark off a square basically, and it should be right in here. And I'll mark it off and cut it and see if we can't get to that tank. I'm sorry, get to the fuel pump. Now that I have the carpet and the pad pulled up, based on some good work other guys did, I made a little cardboard spacer here just so I can mark 5 inches. So I set it up next to the studs on this side, and I tucked it in next to the studs there. Then I moved it around. This is just a piece of cardboard that was cut 5 inches wide, and I marked it there. Then I put it there, and I ended up with this little square in the middle that I'm going to actually cut out. And I'm not going to cut this side. I intend to just cut it a little bit past the 5-inch mark and then bend it up so I have a flap there. We'll see how it works out. So I cut this thing out with my 18-volt DeWalt angle grinder, and when I tried to pick it up, I couldn't bend it because of the contour here. So I had to cut this a little bit, but I left the vast majority of the back. And gladly, when we pull it up, there's the cover to the fuel pump. So it looks like this is going to be a good operation. And the 2 little nuts, one here and one there, holding this cover on, are 10mm. So with the 2 nuts off, I simply remove this cover, and here we have the fuel pump. Now I bought an AC Delco replacement pump, and one thing that's in there is a new connector, and it has a diagram for how to cut these wires and splice the new connector in based on the colors. So I'm going to disconnect the connectors and splice that new connector in before I actually remove the pump. Before removing the locking ring, you'll notice there's a tab right here, and that was engaged with the ring. So just to hold it off of the ring while I hit this thing with a hammer and a screwdriver, I just stuck a penny in there. With the penny in place, it just took 2 light taps, and now the ring is loose. So I'll disconnect the connectors and continue on. So the lines are off, this thing's ready to be removed, and I'll put this new AC Delco unit in. And there's the part number. So with the old one removed, I mean, the gas looks nice and clear, that's encouraging. And when we look at the old one, for you guys that know more about fuel filters than I do, there's the filter. And since this thing was slow to start, you know, based on what I read, I thought the issue was that the check valve had failed, but we'll know here shortly. And when you go to install this thing, you'll notice this tab, and it lines up with a notch right there. And then once it's down and held in place with that collar, just a couple taps with a screwdriver and a hammer, and the collar will seat again with that clip engaging. So the collar is in place, the clip is fully engaged. Now I'll put the lines back on and the wires, and we'll see if this thing fires up. When I went to change out the plug with the one that came with the unit, see that they're already exactly the same. So apparently this thing was already changed once in this vehicle's life. We're going for round 2. So I put a little WD-40 on these two studs before I put the nut on because they were pretty rusty when they came off. But everything is good. Started the car, fired right up, where previously when I turned the key, I would sit there and I would count to 7, and then I would turn the key and it would take off just fine. But if I got in the vehicle and turned the key, it would just crank and crank and crank, and then normally the second time it would take off. When I'm done buttoning this thing up, I'll show you how this one starts now. To button this thing up, I just took a piece of flashing and pop riveted it in. And I thought I'd show you what it looks like with that last piece before I go ahead and fix it. But it's pretty nice and rigid. Once I put the carpet down, you won't even know the job was done. So here's what my floor looks like after I stitched it up with pop rivets and chimney flashing. And now, as a last step, I'm going to put some of this aluminum foil tape, like they use on ductwork in the house, over the thing to seal it up. I'll take one more picture and that'll be it. And this is what it looks like after I put that aluminized tape on there. And as I was putting this stuff on, I thought this tape is kind of like the yoga pants of tape. It provides some coverage, but you don't need to guess what's beneath it. Now I'm going to start it. Previously, when I turned the key, I would count to 7, and then it would take right off. This time I'm just going to turn the key and let her go. Beautiful. Just like downtown. So to summarize this whole adventure, if you want to remove your seats, you don't have to cut the carpet. Use an 18mm socket. Impact wrench works great. Take out the 4 bolts if you have the captain's chairs like I do, or I think it's a total of 8 if you have the 60/40 seat, and pull the seat out. Then you can just fold up the carpet and the padding. Then come into the studs. I made that cardboard spacer, but you want to come in 5 inches from the studs in each case, which gives you a little square in the middle. Take your grinder, you cut 3 sides of the square out so you can flip it up like a hatch. You'll see the cover for the fuel pump. 2 10mm nuts remove the cover, and then you simply release the clips, release the 2 lines, release the 2 electrical fittings, put a penny between that little retaining clip, the plastic clip, and the retaining steel ring. Hit the steel ring a couple of times going counterclockwise with a screwdriver and a hammer. Remove the unit, put the new unit in, reverse all that stuff if you want to do it the way I did it. When you're done, just take chimney flashing and rivet across the seams, basically sew it up, and then use aluminized tape to make the whole thing tight and clean when it's all done. Now I'll just put the matting or the padding back, the carpet back, put the seat back in, and I'm back in action. So this car made it 18 years. It's a 2001. This is 2019. If I have to do this again in 18 years, I won't be unhappy. Have a nice day.